Hi guys, what's up? It's Stevenson at Homes by Sun with Remax, back again for another weekly real estate update. Just to look at what the real estate market, how we did last week. But before we get into it this week, I'm going to review some of the March data as well. Toronto Regional Real Estate Board just came out with the March data. So we're going to take a look at that, as well as we're going to discuss a topic that I've received a lot of questions about from buyers, is whether the listing that they're looking at, can they trust the information that's in the listing? So we take a look at that as well after we go through our monthly data review, as well as the weekly data review. So without further ado, let me share my screen. And so the first thing we're going to look at is the March data, and then we're going to talk about how the market actually did from day to day, from being myself being in the business. This is a chart from Toronto Real Estate Board, and it shows that back in March, the number of transaction, let me get my pen here, the number of transaction dropped about 30%. We're looking at the chart here. 30% from a year ago. We probably had the best March in terms of number of transaction in 2021. So 2022 was a lot less active. The seasonal adjusted number of transaction also went down. Seasonal adjusted, meaning that we'll take an average of the 4 seasons, and we're trying to project, level out the ups and downs between the spring and maybe the quieter winter market, and we do an estimate that way. Year over year average sale price on this side, it also, but the average sale price actually went up from a year ago. So even though we had more transactions, prices weren't as high. And when we look at the weekly data, we're going to see how that trends. But the G.T.A average home price right now sits at 1.3 million, which is down from February. February was a little bit higher. I think it's 1.34. Seasonal adjusted, still at 1.28. And total number of new listings were definitely down in March compared to March of last year. And the number of days on market actually went down. This is a little bit surprising. I'm seeing a lot more listings get relisted. Maybe that is why the days on market shows that it's lower. Toronto Regional Real Estate Board really need to take into account of same listing, holding offer for 7 days, no offer, they get canceled, and then relisted as a new listing. That kind of changes should really have the days on the market continue to count. They do have listings on market, listing days on market, 8, but it doesn't really reflect the reality. Is a lot of the listings maybe get suspended, and it still shows that they are on the market. And so I wanted to show you this chart. It might be easier to visualize that the number of sales, the chart we're looking at here is the number of sales. And so the blue line was last year, 2021, and then the orange line is this year. And you can tell that for every month, the number of sales has been down from a year ago, but it's still way above 2019 or 2020. And then if we look at wanted to look at the average home price, so since January, it's been hovering around, I would say that's 20% to 25% above last year. And so a lot of reports, a lot of news have been saying that, oh, the market is cooling, Yeah, the market is cooling in a way that it's not going up as much as before. If you look at the increase between January and February, there is a noticeable increase, but between February and March, there is a slight dip, but it's not cooling off in the sense that we are in a free fall. Prices are coming way down. All right, so let me just take a quick look at our weekly data. So this is our weekly chart. I've been tracking how the market does from week to week since beginning of this year. And let me just make this a little bit bigger. And so we are going to look at the week of the March 26th to April 1st. As we can see, there is a slight drop in number of new listings. I spoke last week of why we had 3,100 listings. It was because the week before was March break. And so a lot of sellers took time during March break to prepare their house for sale. And then everybody decided to list right after March break. And that's why we had a really big number. A lot of those listings, maybe they were sold, or they didn't get the price they want and they're off the market. And now new listing coming out is 2,900. So we have a slight drop in new listing. Inventory, it's still quite balanced. The number of transaction 1391 here it's gone up from 1,200 transaction the week before. So the market slowed down for a little bit. Now it seems to be picking up again. I did 3 deals this week or last 7 days, and they were all bully offers, either on my own listings or the ones that my client wanted to buy. We had to go in before the offer date. So sometimes listings don't even make it to the offer date and it gets sold. That is still happening. It's still happening quite often. There were a couple of properties that my client were interested. By the time we get to decide that we're gonna put a bid on offer date, we get a notice that, hey, an offer has been received, and we have to act right away. So that's been happening in the last week with my business. And so if we look at the number of transactions selling over asking, that those are the ones that going 101% above the asking price. We're still sitting at around 76%. Historically, that's very high, which means 3/4 of the listings sold are selling above asking. They are they're getting the offers, getting the price that people wanted. If we look at the average price for GTA for the week for last week, average price went back up, which is a good sign. For some of the sellers that were kind of nervous, is the price is going down? Is the price is going down? No, it went down a little bit during March break. Things were quieter. Even after March break, things were a little bit quieter, but now it seems to be picking up. And I think the spring is coming. More people are now out looking for properties. Sellers are less aggressive with their asking price. They're more willing to go with the price that they've seen a couple of weeks ago. So we are going to see more activities. But back in February or March or January, a lot of sellers weren't even happy with, what their neighbors sold for the week before. They want more. They want more. Every week they want a lot more. Right now, we're talking to a lot of sellers. They are more understanding. They know that, well, if my neighbor got such and such price a week and a half ago or 2 weeks ago, they're happy with that price. They're not looking for more and more. So which is good news for a lot of buyers. I've been calling for people to buy in the last few weeks. If you didn't buy, it's still an okay time to buy. It is not as busy out there, although good properties are still flying off the shelf. But there are more options for buyers to look at these days. Depending on, of course, that depends on the type of property you're looking at. So on the condo side, we see the very, very similar trend. We're talking about Toronto 416 area condos here. Very similar trend. We had quite a bit of listing the week before, and then last week, slight drop, but it's still in the history of this year. it's still quite high number of new listings that came out, 878. There were 458 transactions. Transaction-wise for condo actually went down a little bit. So there is a gap here now, which means there is probably room for negotiating if you find the condo that you like. It's not as busy as the week before, or like 1, 2, 3 weeks before. Okay. In terms of price, very stable, hasn't really gone up much, hasn't gone down much. It's hovering around 837, 839,000. So that is pretty good news for the condo buyers, is that prices are not running really high right now. There are still deals to be had. So if you are in the market, definitely take a look at what's out there. I think there are some great properties that you can buy. And so that wraps up my review for the week before. What I predict for the coming weeks, we are probably going to see slightly more activities. Like I said, weather is warming up. This week, I think we're going to hit 15 degrees. People like to be out, like to think about their moving plan when the weather is nice. They're able to see the backyard, they're able to see the front yard, able to see what the house exterior actually looks like, versus a few weeks ago, we were still having snow. So I think the market is going to pick up from now on. Prices aren't going to go up much, if at all. The products which are in the $1.4 to $1.5 million range, they have room to grow. They may grow to 1.5 to 1.6, but anything around 2 million, it gets a little bit tricky. These are products that are probably more luxury in terms of people who are buying it. They may not necessarily want to spend $2 million. So the market for those is a little bit less, quieter. So those sellers need to be either more patient or willing to accept a slightly lower price. Now I'm going to talk about the topic that I prepared for today. Let me go back to the first slide. So the question is, can real estate listings be trusted? Real estate listings are the ones that you see online, or you get a printout from your agent when you go on showings, and I'll show you a sample if you have never seen one, but I'm sure most of you have seen one, or wherever website you're looking at properties, the information there is what would be on a listing. So do the information contain form part of your agreement to buy or sell? So you're looking at the listing and it says that, it has such and such feature, it has this and that, it has, finished basement or 5-bedroom, 4-bedroom, anything like that. Can those numbers be trusted, and do they form part of your agreement? So here is an example of a listing. This is a random listing I pulled. It's in Markham. I cover up the address so you know where it is. And so a few things I want to point out. So it has number of bedroom, 4+1. Typically the +1, we mean either the office, or if it has a finished basement. This one has a finished basement. So there might be a room down there, and that will be called a +1. So to us, looking at this listing, it means there should be 4 bedroom above ground and 1 extra room. Okay. It says total parking space is 4. We can tell from the photo that's probably correct. It's got 2 garage, and you can park 2 more cars outside. You can probably squeeze another one. So they're being conservative. They call it a 4-car garage. No problem there. But sometimes a listing will say you can park 6 cars. And so you go there, take a look, and they mean like 4 minis on the driveway, not normal cars. The driveway is rather short. Yeah, you can fit, but you can't really, not normal cars, or comfortably fit 4 on the driveway. square footage is an area where I wish they made it mandatory, but it's not. And so we get all sorts of agents listing properties that are one category bigger than their actual size. So the way our listing system works is the size, you have different categories to pick. So it goes from like 1,000 to 1,500, 1,500 to 2,000, 2,000 to 2,500, something like that. And so they will pick a range, or they will leave it blank and leave you guessing. I would sometimes, it's better they leave it blank. But if the house is, let's say, 2,980, many times agent will list it as 3,000 to 3,500. They'll want to list it as if it was bigger, and so that it kind of justifies their higher asking price. So you see this listing that says 2,500 to 3,000. Can you trust it, right? And then you look at those room sizes, which I've highlighted, and you go, wow, okay, the rooms look pretty big, but don't forget these are one measurement. The listing only shows you one measurement. You can measure, let's say the room is not exactly square or rectangular. It has cut off somewhere. It's like a trapezoid, or it's not perfectly square room. They can take a measurement from the longest side and use that here. And so you would think that the room is much bigger than it actually is. So right off the bat, I would not trust the room measurement that's here. And also the system, when we input the data, we have to input it as a meter, like decimal meters. It will be 3.14 meter. And then when it shows up on the actual display or on the listing, it converts it to feet. So sometimes agent will actually put the number for the feet. In this example, they will put 11 into the data input form or input field. And so it comes out at 33 feet. The room is 33 by 40 something. So completely way off. So this part, I can't really trust as well. The features should be okay for the most part. This is something that you can also verify from the photo, and that's fine. Now, a lot of listings will list like this one below here, where it says stainless steel fridge, stove, dishwasher, washer and dryer, central air, this and that. Can these be trusted as well? You will have to verify. You should verify. Sometimes things are listed there, they're no longer there. Maybe the seller at one point told the agent that it's going to be left there, but in the end, before they list, they took it out, but the listing still shows that it's there. So back to the question, can real estate listing be trusted? Do the information form part of your agreement to buy and sell? If you're buying a house according to the listing, does it hold the seller to it if something from the listing is no longer there on closing? The answer is no. The answer is no, because I'll explain why, but unless what's important to you has been addressed in the agreement, there's no obligation on the seller's part for what has been put in on the listing. There is a couple of reasons. Reason number one is real estate listings, all the brochures, all the flyers and things like that you receive or you come across, they're merely a form of advertising, no different than you're looking at a magazine and it shows a car or TV and it shows a price and it shows that, and then there are a little disclaimer and says, oh, the car or TV feature has this and that option and it doesn't come standard, things like that. So MLS listing, although we have rules and regulation or under strict guideline to be as accurate as possible, there are 80,000 agents out there. Not everyone interprets something the exact same way, although we should, but due to the lack of proper education for people to become a professional real estate agent, a lot of times we find agents interpret things differently than many of us. And so you will see things listed that is not true when we go, according to us. And the listing does not form part of the agreement between the buyer and seller. You could have everything listed on there, but the agreement does not contain any of the items that listed as included in the listing. To an outsider, that might mean, oh, the buyer didn't want them. That's why it was never mentioned in the agreement purchase and sale. So that's why we cannot assume what's on the listing is what's going to be included. Buyers and seller can negotiate, maybe some items the buyer doesn't want, and so it's not included in the agreement. On the standard form of agreement of purchase and sale, there is also an entire agreement clause. Now, this clause says that only the agreement of purchase and sale itself and any schedule attached to it is all that is being agreed to. That's it. There's no verbal agreement. If there was a note written on a napkin somewhere, left somewhere, it wasn't signed, it's just a note. The seller says, don't worry, I will leave this here. You can't trust it. That's not part of the agreement. Nothing outside of the contract forms the part of the deal. So if it's not in there and the buyer later on realizes it and wants it, they have to do an amendment. They have to add it into the agreement purchase sale. Otherwise, there's no claim. You can't say, oh, he told me. It doesn't work that way. And here is the clause. Now, it exists in the freehold agreement purchase and sale, as well as the condo agreement purchase and sale. And the clause, the line that I've highlighted, spells out exactly that this agreement, including any schedule attached hereto, shall constitute the entire agreement between buyer and seller. There's no representation, warranty, collateral agreement, or condition which affect this agreement or any other as expressed herein. Very simple. If it's not in this agreement, it does not count. It does not either exist. Hey, if it's left there by the seller and the buyer doesn't care, great. But if there's something that the buyer really wants and it's not listed in the agreement purchase and sale, and later on closing it's missing, there's no going back to the seller for this. So always double check what's on the listing. If it shows that it has a water softener, make sure, when you're visiting the property, take a look at the water softener, make sure it's there, or if it's not, ask the listing agent by email. If it says it's a 2-car garage, you got to go in and measure. A lot of times I've seen agent list a 1.5-car garage as a 2-car garage. They say, hey, if you have a tiny car, you can fit 2. Yeah, well, not exactly, you can call that a 2-car garage if there's an asterisk saying that your car can be wider than 4 feet. So make sure you measure and make sure your car is not too long that you can fit in. Check the number of bedrooms. There are a lot of listings out there. Says it's a 4-bedroom. You go in and it's only a 3-bedroom. Somehow they were copying maybe from another listing, or they got busy and it was misrepresented. What can you do if you didn't see it and you bought the house and find out it only has 3 bedrooms? Not much you can do. You already bought it, right? You can go back to the seller and say, oh, oops, I didn't know. So always check to measure the size of the room. If you have any concern about whether the room can fit a bed, a desk, or a wardrobe, something that you need to fit in there, go and measure it. Make sure that it can fit, because the measurement on the listing cannot be trusted. There are doorways, there are maybe jagged the walls, things like that will make the measurement different than it physically can fit. No any valuables item installed, any high-end fridge, appliances, those things need to be included. Any water softener, air purifier, heat recovery system, any of those systems should be listed on the agreement purchase and sale, especially rental items. Got to find out which items are rental and make sure that is also included. So in the end, if it's important to you, write it in. List all the appliances to be included. What the seller needs to fix and repair, put that in. Don't assume that if the seller says, oh, I'm going to replace that broken fridge, and you just say, include existing fridge, that means you're buying the old one, you're buying the broken one. So make sure if the seller is going to replace it, put it in that on closing, you're getting a new one. Chattels and fixtures are to be included, make sure that gets addressed as well. If it's a commercial listing, you got to make sure that the way the property is measured, it's according to BOMA standard, which is a technical standard for all the appraiser to measure a property. It's not always from outside wall to outside wall. Sometimes it could be from the middle of the wall. So there are many other things, but what I'm trying to say is make sure that if it's important to you, have it addressed in the agreement purchase and sale. That way you are not going to have any trouble after closing or have to have argument with the seller. That concludes our weekly review for this week. I hope you guys are enjoying these videos. And if you have any other questions, comments, I really welcome any comments. You put them below. My contact is always imprinted in these videos. So shoot me an email, shoot me a text if you have any questions, specific questions regarding your deal or your house, your property. I'll be more than happy to answer them for you. Until next time, stay safe, take care, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.